Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version. Hello, friends. Welcome to High Strangeness After Dark. Tonight, I have one of my best friends, one of my absolutely favorite human beings in the entire multiverse on, Eric Edelstein. Now, Eric, before you say hi, you're going to recognize his voice because Eric was so kind enough to give me to loan me his talents to do the opening for my show. So every time you hear the opening, this is Eric Edelstein, who is been working in voiceover for 20 years. You may know, heard of a show called We Bare Bears or Baby Shark. And then my listeners, I think you'll be pretty excited about, Eric Edelstein was on Twin Peaks, and we're going to talk about that, of course, and also The Green Room, and so many other movies and TV shows. It would take an hour to list them all. So I highly suggest you go over to his IMDb page, which I will link at the bottom, and check out all of Eric's work, because he's one of the best actors. I know you refer to yourself as a character actor like I do, because we love that moniker, but Eric's just such a huge talent. And Eric, let's talk about how we know each other a little bit. I mean, Eric, please, welcome to High Strangeness After Dark, my friend.
It's an honor to be here. I love the podcast so much. I love the availability to come on After Dark, because I'm not a paranormal expert. Like, you have the best in the world. I'm just so happy for you to see you on there with these other geniuses and where you radiate and float at. But I'm real happy to be able to come on. I wanted to come on, and now I'm glad you're kind of, after hours, after dark, allows some of your dorky friends to come on, because we just love this stuff and have a passion for it, but don't have your knowledge or your guest knowledge. But it's so fun, and you and I definitely bonded, I think, early over the esoterica, and it's such a fun thing. Big time.
We sure did. Yeah, you're a very open-minded guy, and you're definitely interested in esoteric thought, in just kind of Eastern culture and new philosophies. And so while you and I probably weren't always aren't into it in the same way, our wires cross perfectly to make an alchemical, wonderful drink that many people should try to drink down.
Yeah, when you and I are together, it becomes its own thing. It's called 13 Feet, and we create excitement. We create passion. Post-COVID, people will slowly be able to see us in a room together, that there's real magic when two giant open souls that are wired the same are together. And there's just nothing more fun. And I don't think I have a single friend in this life I laughed with more than you, Steve.
Buddy,
the
feeling is mutual.
We have a good old time everywhere.
We do. We have the best time. Erica mentioned 13 Feet. So we started referring to ourselves back, gosh, it's probably been a decade ago now. Woo! We were out pitching a TV show, and it was about, we were big and tall models, which, look, I think it's going to be on the air eventually. People are going to want this. But we were big and tall
models. Someone listen to this and give us money to make one. We'll make you happy. The world needs it more than ever.
We started referring to ourselves because if you put us together, we make exactly 13 feet of love.
Yeah.
Of radiant love energy.
Love and light.
So, of love and fucking light, man. Eric and I kind of, we met we were both doing Second City, which back in the early 2000s was a real pop-in place to do sketch comedy and improv. And Eric and I were both kind of like, not to pigeonhole us with our size, but the big guys in our sketch groups. And I remember when I first saw Eric perform, I was like, damn it, this guy is way funnier than me.
Well, I had the same thing, because I'd heard about you through our buddy Jake Johnson.
Yep.
And I kept seeing you at the big guy auditions, and you kept beating me out. But you were so goddamn nice. Oh, I can remember. It was the football show that I really wanted to be on.
The game.
Yes, and then there was like a home construction show, sitcom.
Oh,
you beat me out on that.
Big day.
Yes. Yeah, you beat me out on that. And then I was just kind of like, but then I remember we were stuck in one of these, and we just started talking like, okay, this guy's fucking great. There's enough work to go around. And then we got a meal soon afterward, and then immediately just started laughing so hard. And then, I think a big part of it is we were also deeply bonded by Art Bell.
Yes.
Because the Venn diagram of us of comedy, music, and Art Bell. Mm-hmm. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I've had that with a couple other guys out here, because I just do feel like somebody that's at my big guy auditions, I just know them and understand them. I know that, hey, maybe you're a chubby kid that was maybe picked on in school and found life through Chris Farley and comedy. And it's like, there's enough to go around. Let's just all be friends. And like, nobody can do everything.
No.
So
well, you actually mentioned something. Yeah, you mentioned something interesting, which I think I like understood this more when I was an adult. But like as a bigger kid, a chubby kid, I would get made fun of. But I learned that comedy was the best way to like I'm going to make fun of myself before somebody else can, and then you get the bullies laughing at you, which was better than getting your butt kicked or made fun of publicly in front of people in the hallways.
That's it. And I remember the movie that changed stuff for me. It's funny was Roxanne with Steve Martin.
My God.
Where it's his version of Cyrano where he has the big nose.
Yes.
And I was, I don't know, 12 or 13. And then he did this thing when people were making fun of him where he stood up and made the funniest jokes at his own expense. And it deflated all of them. And I remember something snapped in my brain of like, oh, that's interesting. And then I started doing that. And then at the same time, kind of started doing impressions. And then when Chris Farley was on Saturday Night Live, I started doing Matt Foley. And it was amazing to watch the transformation in people that went from kind of making fun of me to laughing. And all of a sudden, you're kind of cool because you're funny. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, being funny and using comedy as a self-defense mechanism is, I mean, like, while it's kind of sad on the outside that a kid would be forced to do it, it is, I mean, like, look, you're never going to stop bullying, but, like, I will say, if you can come up with bits and, like, ways to make fun of yourself or ways to make fun of the situation, you can prevent a beatdown.
Well, for sure. And then the other thing, right in that vein, you and I immediately had in common is that we're not always on. Because those folks that are always on, God bless them, and God, I'm sure they beat me on a lot of stuff now because they're always on. But for me, that's exhausting and hard. So I would love getting there with you. And then you and I, the veil drops. Like, God, that was brutal.
I know.
Just take our shirts off and wrestle. Who gets that tape? Oh, man. Just leaving a debilitating commercial audition and then not having to have, an illusion that it was anything but sucky. It's a joy.
Yeah. It was always the worst thing, especially back in the day. When I got older, I got really good at saying no to some of those things. But like when I was young, they'd be like, they get you in the room like, oh, you're playing like the young guy who ate too many snacks. Now, can you get that shirt off? And I'll be like, oh God, and my stomach would sink. And of course I would do it, but it's just, I'll tell you what, Hollywood is not for the faint of heart. It is going to humble you. And,
post-COVID, I've done a couple of those commercial cattle calls post-COVID. And I even had one guy running it, like, ask me to stay after. He's like, did I offend you? Because he was so, God bless him. And I want to be like, this whole thing offends me, Fred.
Yeah.
You were especially offensive today. I think I've earned a tiny bit more than the way you just harangued us.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years,
it's the life we chose, and it is what it is. But, boy, it can really be challenging. That's why stuff like this is so fun and feels like freedom,
It is. Well, and also being able to commiserate with guys like you at these auditions was really when it got good. Because, I mean, for a long time, I felt like I was like the only big guy actor friend I had. I didn't have anyone to like talk to and like just say like, man, this one really hurt my feelings. And to the point where even if I didn't see you at audition, I would call you afterwards and you'd always come to me, buddy, I've been there. They're assholes.
Well, I think that the way big people are treated, it's kind of, I always say weight jokes are the last refuge of the hack.
Yes.
And it's still you're still allowed to get away with it. And I remember a few years ago, I did a show and it was one of those where it's like, we're celebrating new voices here and everybody and I was like, awesome, great. Well, I had this giant monologue and I worked on it. It was my second episode coming back. And then right before, I worked this thing, Steve.
Yeah.
And of course, now I'm playing a cop on a donut show, so I should have had a clue. So right before I got to do my monologue, and I'm like, okay, I've walked this beat for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things. Like, you know what? Actually, time-wise, just cut the monologue, and they went to Katie Scott. Katie, just cut him off after 2 words and call him a fat ass.
Oh my God!
And I just was like, who's gonna stand up and stop this? Like I'm gotta be. I thought I was better than this. No, and I just remember, and she even felt bad. She's like, I guess it's funny, and I want to be like, it's not funny. This show's all about celebrating all kinds of different kinds of people, and you're still doing this with big people, like that's still allowed. And I think for a lot of people, eating's kind of an addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have empathy for every other kind of addict, but
Yeah.
like, you know, it's the last refuge of the hack, and I couldn't believe it. And I sat there, and then like I think they were like, God, what's wrong? You were so happy last episode. I'm like, you just took away a monologue I worked 4 days on and called me a fat ass. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
I
should have
feel
gone to
like
law school.
Oh man, well, I mean, look, there's better and easier ways to make money. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's why
I
it
feel
was
like
always such a joy having you here, and even those like, hey, are you going to this horrific Geico audition on La Brea? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get the window, and then when you and I could go to a horrible audition, then go and get dim sum. That's when a whole world opened up.
It really was.
However degrading they are, once that hot chili oil and soy sauce and vinegar comes in, and we're ordering a lot of plates, and they're like, "You sure want more?"
Yeah.
Oh, we're sure we want more.
We do.
Oh yeah. They're gonna make fun of us for being big. We're just gonna get them back and eat even more. The system has been beaten, friends.
I think we beat the system, man. They can't get us down anymore. We did. You know, while we're on the topic of the inside scoop of Hollywood and what it's really like to be a character actor in 2023, I want to talk about Twin Peaks, Eric, because Twin Peaks, I probably on every single episode, like there's Twin Peaks, the TV show, and then there's Twin Peaks kind of as a lens into high strangeness and 40 and paranormal topics and the occult and all that stuff. And in my opinion, Twin Peaks almost kind of works as like a documentary for the wide breadth of all these weird phenomena. To me, is no show or film or even maybe piece of art for that matter has ever captured the weirdness and the absurdity of it. So can you, first off, Eric played Smiley Fusco, one of the 3 cop brothers in Vegas with David Koechner. And what was the other guy's name?
Larry Clark.
Larry Clark, so great.
The other Larry Clark is the director. Larry, and Larry's just brilliant. I love both. You guys we all hang out.
You guys almost worked as like this, in very funny, but also like delivering very, important key points of information to drive the story forward. These are very pivotal characters, and it almost worked as kind of like a Three Stooges. You guys had like almost this vaudevillian way of interacting with each other, which I thought was so brilliant and definitely classic Lynch, because Lynch loves like old Hollywood, and to me it was like he brought in this like old Hollywood comedic trio for levity and also just to move the story forward in a very interesting way. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like working with David Lynch on Twin Peaks?
Yeah, I mean, because it was my absolute favorite show as a kid, and especially being from the Northwest, it is so weird up there. And I'm also convinced that Twin Peaks is really Spokane. Because he lived there till he was like 4, and then he moved to Montana, and then of course Philadelphia really brought in the depravity. But Spokane, when I went, it was where my family originated from in like the 1880s, and then I lived near Portland. But when I went to Spokane, they're just such wonderful weirdos up there,
right? And
kind of like maybe how Austin used to be. When I went to Spokane, I immediately felt accepted in a way that I wasn't really in Portland, Vancouver. And I just love them so much. And there is that undercurrent there that is very, very Twin Peaksy.
And you went there for college in Gonzaga. So you moved there in the mid-90s-ish, around there?
Yeah, 97. And that's when it clicked to me. I'm like, oh, this is really it. Because I watched every episode of Twin Peaks with my mother on the couch.
And did I, my friend. I literally did. Yeah.
Yeah. When kids don't play with you, just watch Twin Peaks on the couch with your mom. It all works out.
It was great too.
Yeah, and you figured out therapy later. But I was obsessed with the show from the get-go. I couldn't believe it. I just know that there was a feeling to it that I understood, and it's also felt like a playground for underdogs. And you're watching all this stuff, and it just makes you so darn happy.
Yeah.
And, I then hilariously, I'll give the longer version story because I know Hello Strangeness is into Twin Peaks. So I did a meditation class, and I went through it. And then I always recommend, if you can, do a meditation intro with actors that are much more famous than you. Because on the last day, our one of our instructors came in and said, "Hey, David would like to have you out to the house to meditate." And he's told the story before publicly, so I kind of held it in for a while. But one of the actors was Michael Cera. And when we went to Lynch's house, and he brought us up there, and I was just in shock, and it felt like a dream. And I briefly mentioned Spokane. He's like, "Oh, you're from Spokane. I remember those Ponderosa Pines and Air Force planes flying overhead. Oh, my gosh." But then I realize now, because the punchline of the story you'll see, he was, I think, immediately focused on Michael Cera, and the part of Wally Brando started being written in his head.
Wow.
Because like maybe a year down the road, I got an audition for Twin Peaks. And I assumed, would find out later incorrectly, it was because of that meditation thing. Had nothing to do with that. My agent submitted me. And then you go out there, and it's this weird industrial area deep in the valley, kind of what you want. And, you know, the people all look like they're from a Lynch movie in the waiting room. And I went in there, and I'm like, I kind of hear people kind of performing or talking differently. Like, just try to be me. Just try to be me. But also, like, this is my favorite show that's ever existed.
Yeah.
So Joanna Ray, the casting director, like, they're very coy, and there's no lines memorized. It's just questions like, "So, do you know why you're here?" And I went, "Twin Peaks?" She's like, "And how do you feel about that?" And I go, "Well, trying to keep it casual. How am I doing?"
Yeah.
Thank God I giggled.
Yeah.
Because you can see on disc 7 of the Twin Peaks The Return, you can see the moment where Lynch decides to hire me. Because he's like going like this, and he's trying to think, and then thank God Sabrina Sutherland and Mark Frost yes-anded him, because he immediately went, "Could there be 3 detectives?" And they both went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, I want to hire that big guy with that laugh." And then he starts, the voiceover is him explaining what the character was. And and then they cut to me like sitting on like a milk carton while he's explaining what to do. So he would basically mostly just use my laugh as a musical instrument. So
yeah,
I didn't have
that's a great way of putting it.
And you know, we know he does his own sound editing and everything else. And so I got the script, and then it said in there was a special note that said, "You're not in the script, but rest assured David has things for you to do every day in every scene." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Right. I just can't believe I'm there.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, I found myself getting horrifically typecast because I did the movie Green Room, where I play a terrifying neo-Nazi skinhead bouncer, and all the parts I was getting offered.
You're so unbelievably great in that movie,
bless
by
your
the way.
Friend. Well, you know,
it's such a beautiful movie.
The key to Bad Guys is just playing it like yourself, and you're also a former bouncer, so I don't know about you, but when I was really bouncing, I was scared every day.
Yeah.
Because I grew late. I haven't been in a fight since junior high. And I also know a 5'6" guy that is a green belt in jiu-jitsu can just kick my ass. He'd go right for my bad knee. And they would do that. They would come up. These people would get drunk, and they're enraged. This guy would come in every Sunday. He was a church organist. And then he would, "Hello, how are you?" And then by drink 9, "What you doing, fatty?" And I'm like, "Martin, I'm going to just let you know right now, you kick my ass. You've already won this fight. You've won. I can't back up my size, friend. This little theater kid." And they would be confused, but kind of go in. I do that over and over again. So I'm like, well, what if I played that like 3?
Right.
Kind of thought it was a little scary. And also scared. So I was worried I was going to play some horrific Black Lodge entity. And I'm like, whatever it is, I'm happy to be there.
Yeah.
But then Lynch is like, "You're the sweetie. Your brothers don't care. You're just a sweetie. But you're an ace detective. You're not ever going to act dumb because you are an ace detective and you can figure things out your brothers can't because you're always watching." And I just felt empowered. And this like leader believed in me. And then every day I would go in there and he'd be like, "Okay, now on this line here, I just want two spurts of a giggle and then suppress the third." And I go, "Yep, that's it. Okay.
That's exactly it. Yes.
That's it." And then I also, previous to this, I always had a recurring nightmare about not being able to memorize lines.
Yeah, I still have that. It would
be huge pressure, and it would literally be Neil Young or David Lynch, and I couldn't remember my lines. And so that was all it was, and I was happy. So there'd be one line here and there, and you'd be like, "Okay, now ask him about the tail light." "Oh, yes, okay." But then this one day, they're lighting the scene, which means you're like 15 minutes out, and they're like, "Okay, boss wants to see you." And he's writing this thing down. And he's like, "Okay, Bucko, you got a monologue today. You're going to be talking about your mother." And I think he saw the look on my face that I literally had this nightmare.
Yeah.
And he just he's so full of love. And when people say don't meet your heroes, it's such bullshit. Have better heroes.
Yeah.
But he looked at me and he saw like the fear. And he's like, don't worry about the lines. You can have the paper here and look at it. We don't care about that. What we care about is your mother is lost and driving around. And you're the sweetie that will help her. Your brothers won't help her. You can have the paper right there. And then I was like, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. And then immediately the guy that played my brother, Larry Clark, is an acting coach. He's like, just start saying out loud, reps. And then there's Don Murray here, who's Academy nominated for an Oscar in 1956 with Marilyn Monroe. You got it, buddy. And there's just like waves of love pouring over me. And the whole thing's great. And then hilariously, you can see the piece of paper right there. Like it looks like detective business, but at any point I could have looked down and then didn't need to. But it's like getting over that fear, and it's the power of an amazing leader like that makes you better than you actually are, you know?
Yeah, I mean, directors really, like on a film set or TV or even a commercial, they're really the generals out on the field, you know? So when they're like really the vibe of any set or for any actor is dictated by how the director treats you. And he saw through the typecasting of you being this big guy who obviously can play like a horrible person because you're very talented, but like, you know, he saw through. He's like, you're the sweetie, and you are the sweetie in real life. And like, and the thing is, like, Smiley Fusco honestly is one of the most Eric Edelstein. Like, if you're lucky and privileged enough to know Eric, like that is one of the most you roles ever.
Yeah, it's just me, and it's just a weird giggle that worked. Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't blurted out that giggle, I wouldn't have gotten it. But the hilarious thing was on the last day of shooting, his assistant showed up who hadn't been there, and he looked at me funny. He's like, didn't you come out of the house and meditate with Michael? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I assume that's how I'm here. He's like, no, he does not know this. Yeah. So he goes and whispers in his ear, and it's amazing to watch David Lynch get his mind blown. He looks at me and goes, oh, my God, that was you. Come here. So I walk over. He's like, that was you. Oh, my gosh. Because I think I had a big beard at that time, and he made me shave the second I got in Twin Peaks. And then he's like, are you still doing TM? And I'm like, yes, sir, I am. I promise I am. I promise I am.
I swear.
And then my incredible wife was just terrified me because when we went to the wrap party, she doesn't know Lynch that well. It doesn't have the reverence. And she went, God, do you really do it 2 times every day? And I'm like, and then he just looked at her like he'd heard before. He's like, I have not missed a meditation since May of 1973. Like, he's just all about the meditating.
Oh, he really
I both do TM, and it is a gift. And like, it's
it's really
fuel
nice
in my tank that I love, and I don't ever want to be culty about it but it's not a cult. And it's just, you know, this amazing tool. But
it's
I am very grateful for it.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, I have other friends who do other forms of meditation. Then great, whatever works for you. TM's works. Just for me was the easiest to get there. You know, it's funny. So we were talking about Lynch and TM, and I was lucky enough to meet David Lynch twice because of Eric. And the first time was, I mean, like, so Eric and I show up at this house in Beverly Hills, beautiful, classic Beverly Hills mansion. We're dressed up. I remember we have sport coats on. At the time, I was a smoker, so I remember like smoking like a million cigs with Ben Foster. Remember, he was out there smoking too. Yeah. Like, so it's you, me, and Ben
definitely
Foster.
The most nervous I've ever seen you, because once this happened, it became my mission to have you meet him. And I'll be honest, this whole story is not going to be right unless you work with Lynch too.
Yeah,
no, I'm telling you, he doesn't know, but he's got another one that, like, when people grow up in the universe, it naturally gives us a shorthand, and he'll just do the same thing with you.
Yeah. Well, God, I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't even know if I'd be able to perform in front of him. I'd probably choke or freeze up. But the thing was, Eric was so nice. I
was ready to choke and freeze up when he gave me the
Well, dude, I truly just remember, like, the only reason I was able to keep it together is because when, you know, I remember, I can't remember the woman who had kind of invited us there. she kind of waved us over to come meet David, and I immediately started I truly had a panic attack. I remember my whole back being covered in sweat, like sweating through my sport coat. Eric puts his hand on me, and we go over there, and he is literally like holding me up, and he is like honestly as a friend, like just there for me, making sure I don't faint or like pass out. And it was wonderful. Lynch was like the sweetest man, just like you
lit
think
up
he
when he
would be.
saw you. He can tell. I feel like he can just tell
I
those
probably
that
could.
are of his world.
I think so. I like that. That's a
Steve,
wonderful
how
thing.
you doing?
Yeah, I remember he's like, "Congratulations on your practice." I remember he said that to me, and he touched my shoulder, and I nearly turned into a puddle of water.
Yeah, and your shoulder was not covered in sweat. That was
It was the only place that was dry.
All meant to be. He knew even that. He knew if he touched the upper lower back, he was going to be looking for sanitizer, even pre-COVID. Yeah.
Oh man. Well. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'm going to now just start like asking you some questions. So Eric is originally from kind of born. You were born in Vancouver. I know you moved around a lot as a child, but
yeah, my dad was in the military till we were 4. So I was born in Maryland. Then we lived in Memphis, and then we moved to Vancouver, Washington, in 1981, right after Mount St. Helens erupted. So you're moving into weirdness.
I'm so happy.
My dad was clearing out ash for months from our gutters. And did you see we had an earthquake yesterday up there, friend?
Yeah, I just 4.2. I just saw that.
And that's the, truthfully, that's the scarier big one that's impending. Yeah. Because it's only a matter of when for that big Northwest quake. And it's going to be cataclysmic and awful. Well,
it's funny. I'm looking at it on my piece of paper right here. That to ask you about. Do you remember that going off, or were you too young at that point?
We moved there, thankfully, right after it went off.
Right.
So we were still in Oakland at that time, moving up. But I mean, my dad was just shocked because we were living on like base housing in Oakland, and then you get this.
What kind of hellscape did I move my family to?
Yeah, covered in ash, and I mean, he's just up there pulling ash out of the gutters forever. And it was definitely very weird. And there is this spooky thing that just started immediately in the Northwest. Like, hold on, this crazy mountain just blew up. And I remember we were little kids, but like you learn about Harry Truman on the news, the guy that wouldn't move away from Mount St. Helens and was right in the lava flow. And they kept trying to get him out. He wouldn't do it. And so it was a weird thing to be confronted with this weird kind of death that was unavoidable just from the local news. That something cataclysmic had just happened there. And then at the meantime in the Northwest, we're so close to Cougar, which is Bigfoot Central. And you just, as a kid, you're probably more in tune to energies than you are as an adult. And it was so clear that this Northwest was awesome, but had a weirdness all over it. And it was kind of foreboding. We would go and look at Mount St. Helens as kids. We'd go to Cougar and camp. And it just it was like Twin Peaks, but even kind of scarier because there's also this... there's a lot of dark history in how a lot in the Northwest is founded.
Yeah, there is. And there's just a weird vibe up there too, man. My grandparents are from Salem, Oregon, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
And you had family in Medford too, right?
I did. My grandfather was from there, yeah.
Yeah, my
grandfather my whole dad's family is very Pacific Northwest based.
Well, that's I think part of why you and I hit it off, because you have this Northwest vibe and energy and openness and friendliness. But yeah, I could spend summers in Medford, and that's got a crazy history. And yeah, it was definitely you're into the weird world when you're in the Northwest.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's the weird corridor to Canada. I was wondering, just because, look, I like to talk about wacky things and a lot of the woo-woo stuff. Have you ever heard the rumors that there was National Guard people airlifting Bigfoot out of Mount St. Helens?
No.
And there's no substantiation evidence out there at all for this.
Amazing.
But I've been hearing this for 20 years that supposedly, I think it might have even been on our Bell show, where they were airlifting Bigfoot out and giant nets, and they were just helicopters were taking Bigfoot out of there because they want him to get engulfed in lava.
Wow. Well, I obviously that's a pretty interdimensional shapeshifter, and I think you can just teleport out. But I
don't know what he or she
want to believe, and I'd like to think that Bigfoot has been hidden. But if he sees that lava flow and the National Guard drops a net down, that's a better option.
I mean, it's nice that they had the foresight to help our brother Bigfoot. So,
Yeah.
God. It's fun. It's fun. It's one of those fun things. I also want to just kind of go over. I found a couple weird facts about Vancouver, some weird laws and stuff that I wanted to see if you were aware of or if you've broken any.
No.
So there's a law in the books meant to reduce crime mandates that a motorist with criminal intentions, before he enters the city limits, must notify the chief of police before he enters.
I do that every time I fly back. So I'll go back like December 22nd and be like, I'm going to the dispensary. I'm going to speed. I have ADD. It's not going to be good, but I'm going to be there 4 days. And you just kind of check in, and they're like, okay, all right, Eric's back.
I figured you were a law-abiding person.
Well, I want to be in compliance. It's just, it's admitting to your weirdness out the get-go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Another one, which I think, we both would agree with, it is illegal to harass Bigfoot in Vancouver.
And this is real. And there's laws in place around there that are very similar to like in Nepal around the Yeti.
Yeah.
Because the people that are from like Cougar and stuff, it's not a debate if Bigfoot's real. They're like, no, yeah, he's real. He's also smart enough to clear the fuck out when you look for him.
Yeah, right. I mean, I like that they've weaved the Bigfoot mythos, whether it's real or not, into the fabric of their like society and culture. Because I actually think whether it's real or not almost matters very little to me at this point. But mythology and these stories are important, and they're also very fun. Like it's fun to make the world magic a little bit.
Oh,
if you're not doing any harm.
Well, and I always think about the people in the monasteries in Tibet that are very just amused by white folks coming up having to try to find the Yeti.
Yeah.
Because to them, it's two things. It's one, we all know he exists. He's a part of our life. Yeah. We have some relics to charge you to see.
Exactly.
But second of all, he's on another plane of existence. He's smarter than us. He's intuitive. So the second you get close, what do you think he's going to do? Hang out with his hands? Cuff me? All right, you got me.
Yeah, take me in.
They're so elevated, they know to get away. So
because we treat animals so good anyway.
Oh,
come on.
Yeah. You're going to love the Los Feliz Zoo. It's great, right by Griffith Park. Yeah, have a blast.
Great air out there.
Yeah. So I think that, there's something of that in the Northwest of like, we all know he's there, but you're not gonna find him.
Yeah, you're not gonna find him. Yeah, leave him or her alone.
Yeah.
Did you know that it's illegal to walk around Vancouver with a cold? Simple cold?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they were all over this kind of so the pandemic must have been like nothing for them. You guys were used to it, ready to go.
Oh yeah, if you're not allowed a cold, that's rare empathy.
Yeah, like, I think that's nice. Let's not spread it.
I have an internal blacklist in my head of people I've seen show up for social events with a cold. Yeah, there's one guy I can think of right now where you're sneezing. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Stay here.
Your presence is so important that you can get us all sick. Let me spoiler alert, it's not. Why are you here coughing? Get out of here. Go. And this was pre-COVID. When someone is doing that, it just tells me immediately all I need to know about them. Now, if it's work, I get that. You have to show up for work. We've seen people on sets coughing, but I'm like,
of course.
Dude, you're at a party at a craft brew pub sneezing. Your presence is not worth me getting sick, friend. Your writing is not that good. Go.
Get out of town.
Yeah, go. Get DoorDash. Call it good. Creep.
I'm with you. Let's put that law everywhere.
All right, yeah. I like As Vancouver goes, so goes the world. We're doing this.
Yeah, I think they seem to have it pretty down. And another one, which I think is good, and, maybe F. Scott Fitzgerald would have had a problem with this, but it is illegal to pretend your parents are rich in Vancouver.
What?
Yeah,
you're kidding.
No, yeah, don't do that fake nepotism stuff. Don't say your parents belong at the country club when they really don't.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Vancouver's also so interesting because there's a duality of it. Because, my parents love to say we're 7 minutes from the Portland airport. I'm like, Mom and Dad, you're a world away from Portland.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely Washington. It's a lot more conservative.
Right.
It's a very different kind of place. It's rural and it's suburban and it stretches out far and wide and there's areas of beauty. I understand why my dad chose to live there once you realize the tax situation. That there's no income tax and there's no sales tax in Oregon, so they can cross over 10 minutes and shop in Portland. So my dad definitely beat the system. But Vancouver's definitely not an area where you can kind of put on airs. So if somebody's walking around saying their parents are rich, Vancouver's not dealing with no, you're in Vancouver. You're not in Portland. You're not in Lake Oswego. This is here. We admit who we are.
There's nothing we know what side of the tracks you're from, Turkey.
That's it. And I remember going into Portland. I went into Portland for high school, and Vancouver gets definitely made fun of. They call it Vantucky. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But I love Vancouver, and I'm grateful I grew up there because it gives you that duality. So I have a Vancouver part of me, and I have a Portland part of me.
Ugh, rich kids are the worst. I'm sorry. Sorry for you rich kids out there, but you're the worst.
I don't think any rich kids are into hello strangeness. I'm just going to say
no,
that right now.
No.
This is an underdog-centric, people seeking just a little bit
We're
more.
all working class around here.
Come on.
We're all working class. Give me a break. Eric, are you ready to hear what I think is a very, very interesting Bigfoot account from the summer of 1989, June to be specific?
What? Yes.
I'm
so excited, buddy. I can't believe you're here.
Okay, good. So I'm going to try. It's a long story, but I'm not going to make it long. I'll do some paraphrasing and just kind of give you the really juicy bits. So I'm going to need you to take yourself back to 1989, Clark County, Washington. Huh? You loved it already. And put yourself in the shoes of Mrs. Brenda G. She is washing her dishes, looking out over the backyard, past the corral with the pony off in the distance, but notices that the horses are becoming unruly and seemingly close to panic, right? And so this indistinct figure passes through the trees behind the corral. She's like, whoa, that's a little weird, okay? So she calls to her son, Nick, there are some kids out there trying to tease the horse. So Nick, being the good son, kind of the man of the house for the day, steps out with his BB gun to go, take care of business and see what's up.
What?
So yeah. This kid's brave, man. You're a brave bunch out there. So he runs out past the meadow. Well, this is not describing you. You're no Nick, okay?
No. Mom, they're fine. Horses
Mom,
I think they're good. It's a BB gun. I'm not doing shit.
Yeah, I'm playing Sega. Leave me alone. So Nick races out, goes out, kind of jogs out there, and he comes through like a clearing of trees, and he is abruptly face to face with are you ready for this? Sasquatch standing in an indistinct footpath.
What?
Yeah.
Right? I believe, okay. Brother.
Buddy.
Believe.
I mean, this is crazy, right? So Nick comes to a screeching halt, obviously, and he actually slides on some moist vegetation and falls on his rear end. But then he looks. The Sasquatch at this point had kind of just like, whatever, man, and just starts taking off towards the meadow, walking, doing his thing. But when he falls, it looks back and stares at him. And this thing, is freaking him out. And then it starts going on its way again, and it's scrambling up this meadow. So Nick gets up, takes like a little brief moment when it's not looking at him, runs back to the house, tearing the screen door off the hinges, which I gotta think you've probably torn a screen door off hinges before, haven't you?
Yeah.
And
they don't make them like they used to, Frank.
No, they don't make them for the larger man who's, just like, Susie and I one time were running an Airbnb in Colorado, and I remember I just did normally, but I'm not like a super strong person, but like sometimes I just break things like spatulas, and I break. I'm going to
say this though for your listeners: you are a super strong person. You're the strongest person I know, and the only person that I can't ever like bully around with bits physically. Sometimes it's kind of fun. You are a brick wall. Like, I'm so glad you did not play football in college because CTE, but like, you are an elite athlete and unbelievably strong.
Athlete.
Sorry, deal with it.
I've never been accused of that.
No, you are. But even in my lower state, I've absolutely fucked up a screen door before.
I'm going to Venmo you. I'll Venmo you $50 after this for talking me up. Thank you.
64.
So, so he gets back there. He is totally tripping out. His mom's like, what's going on? He's like, look, Mom, I'm pretty sure I saw a Bigfoot out there. How about that? And so Nick runs, he gets back in the house, changes his footwear because he was wearing loafers. He's like, dude, I got to get some boots on because whatever is happening out there is going to require boots because obviously his footing wasn't great because he slipped on that vegetation. So he gets off those slippery loafers, charges back out with his boots and a bayonet, an old-timey antique rifle from the top of the fireplace with a bayonet. This kid is a maniac, first off. Man, I mean, like what you'll do for a mother's love, I guess. So, like,
yeah.
Oh man, and also at the same time, there's two dogs that ran out with them. The two dogs retreated under like a patio.
No.
And like were whimpering. These dogs wanted nothing to do with the Bigfoot. So then he runs back out, with the bayonet and these wonderful boots he has on, into the meadow, and the Sasquatch is still walking around out there. He retreats down a hill, crosses a small creek, and stops on the far bank of the creek under a tree, and it becomes face to face again with the Bigfoot. But this time it's bathed in sunlight, and it can really make out some of the features, right? So he sees this Bigfoot, and it's got kind of blackish, reddish hair on the shoulders. It's like red. Its eyes are very set back. He can see so much detail that he said the fingernails were like stained nicotine color.
No,
like like a chain, probably what Nick Nolte's fingernails look like. Lifelong heavy smoker of Marlboro Reds. This Bigfoot already sounds very Nolte-esque to me.
Oh, completely.
Which is how I feel like if anyone actor was to voice a Sasquatch, I'm hiring Nolte.
Oh, come on.
No questions about it, right?
I'm just trying.
Yeah. So, yeah, he looks at this thing, and he said in about 5 minutes he was staring at this thing. Just,
5
unbelievable.
minutes?
Yes. And one thing he said, that he did not detect any kind of odor. And a lot of times I don't know if you know this, Eric, when people see Bigfoot, you're shaking your head. They oftentimes, folks, we all know this, there is oftentimes a horrible odor that comes along with it. Now, I'm not saying that the Bigfoot is even, putting out this odor, because a lot of times with ghost cases, UFO cases, or high strange cases in general, Eric, there is this kind of sulfur or putrid, like horrendous smell that goes along with it. So that's kind of with high strangeness in general. So whatever is making the Bigfoot being seen. Now, it could just be because it hasn't showered for its whole life, or it could be because the mode of transportation between this world and theirs requires a little bit of a sulfur smell. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as a thought experiment. So in due time, the mother, Brenda G., as she describes it, is really getting the willies. Yeah,
Brenda, you earned it.
Brenda, I think you earned to be scared.
Yeah.
And she anxiously screams to Nick to break it off, thereupon getting back here. The Sasquatch then makes a huge noise, like a guttural scream. At that point, like, all bets are off. It takes a step across the creek towards them, holding its arms out to the side about 45 degrees as if to shoo them away. They run halfway up the hill towards the house when Nick feels compelled to give it one more look. He is rewarded by the repeat of a faintly aggressive display. So this Bigfoot is not playing around. It's definitely trying to shoo him off at this point. So they continue to the house. Brenda's scooping up little Johnny, who's like the little brother from the yard, who says, and little Johnny said, while all this kerfuffle was going out in the meadow, little Johnny says, "Mommy, there is a big monkey in our backyard." And the mom's like, "Oh my God, we got another one." So Brenda climbs up the low garage and watches another Sasquatch, like a little smaller one, walk away out of the yard. The dogs still are freaking out, and they wouldn't come out for hours, right? Brenda phones 911, as God, what else are you gonna do? But she hangs, 911 doesn't. I think that maybe they get a lot of these calls, but they're like, "Yep, sounds good. Anyways, good luck with that Bigfoot," and they don't come out and do anything. And then, the next day, 2 sets of footprints are found, and other people in the area at the same time where one other person saw a Bigfoot the same night, and then another person said some of their chickens were taken and their horses were stirred up. So there was multiple people in the area that said they had really weird stuff happen. So I want to just, are these stories that you kind of heard around like every once in a while as a kid?
No.
Bigfoot stories?
And I'm so completely bummed I never heard this.
Yeah.
And it's not anything that made the local paper, or I wonder where they are, if they're like Washougal or rural, because
Yakult.
Oh, of course.
Am I saying that right?
Yakult, yeah. And that's horse country, that's farming country, and that makes all the sense in the world. And that's only 15 minutes from where I grew up. But I cannot wait to get deep in this story, because I would love, can we follow up with them now? Little Johnny even saw it.
Yeah, little Johnny saw a little small one, right? And that is the thing. It's like a lot of these cases, they happen and then people don't follow up. And I always think the follow up is somewhere you can get some of the really interesting stuff. After people have these kind of like traumatic events and encounters, I feel like it's really interesting to see how one was their worldview changed. Two, how did it affect their life? Because I feel like when you see something like this, look, I don't care who you are, it's gonna have some kind of change in you. You know,
it has to be. And it has to open the doors of perception a little bit more because
I would think so.
There's something.
Yeah. Because
what
if
else
you had that
have they lied to us about?
Right. And like if you had that confirmation experience, well, I have to think that your reality from this point on is just a little bit different.
Buddy, what if we tried to find these people?
Well, I mean,
let's give it like a look, and like you can do LexisNexis.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
LexisNexis, this guy's pointing out. I mean, look, ask Ma, ask Pa, ask some of your old friends around the area. Like, do you guys know a Brenda G?
Is it G?
We'd like to talk to her. It's G. Like they didn't want to give out the last name. I think a lot of these. So this was taken. This is ripped from the not ripped from the pages. No, but it was taken from the BFRO, which is the Bigfoot Research Organization, which is kind of like a big national repository for official Bigfoot reports. Some people like this organization. Some people have their problems with it. I mean, I think it's at least somewhere is documenting this stuff, so I think that is good. But I have had no luck because I have a lot of times when they're with these Nebraska cases or cases that happened around Nebraska, I've tried to inquire further details from the investigator. And they really, and that makes sense. They don't want to give out their names. A lot of these people don't want their names in the paper, or weirdos like me probably following up with them 20 years later saying like, so about that Bigfoot you saw. Can we talk about that?
Brenda, the Yeti. Where's Johnny?
Brenda.
Let's talk to Johnny.
You me, little
monkey,
Johnny.
Young man.
I'll take all of her pad thai. We'll talk about it.
Do some. Now, what we do have to cross-check, though, is was Nick Nolte potentially shooting in Portland? Because maybe it was just that. The fact he doesn't smell like... I bet Nolte smells great. I bet it's like an Yves Saint Laurent cologne.
Yeah.
Something real good. Something real good.
Well, I will say this. Now, he went to my high school, so, Nolte is an Omaha. He's an Omaha kid, and we are pretty well known for our great smells.
I know. Absolutely.
Our great natural aromas. Like it's just...
So many great actors come from Omaha. It's so interesting.
We have a lot of...
When I come visit you, we're going to go on a full Brando tour.
Oh, yeah.
And what I want to do one day is he went to this military school. I think it's called Shattuck Academy. I think it might be in Minnesota. But his big thing that he did to get kicked out was he stole the bell. The bell would ring, and that meant you had to go to class or something. And Brando stole the bell, or the middle of the bell, and just buried it. And they don't know where he buried it. And they just kicked him out. I'm like, dude, let's find the bell. There's hidden history there.
Hell yes. And it's interesting because now you're picking up on a motif which we love to discuss on this show, is that the rumor about Nick Nolte at my high school was that he got kicked out of my high school his senior year for selling fake IDs. But and then he was arrested in Omaha for selling fake draft cards a year later.
Oh, cool.
Legend. But the rumor about him was that he, on the 50-yard line of our football field, because he was like a football star, and ended up playing college football a couple years later, but he buried a 6-pack of beer at the 50-yard line. And we were always like, dude, we got to go dig up Nolte's 6-pack, man. That was always like the urban legend at our high school.
I mean, it'd be amazing to ask him because he's still going strong. I mean, he is. The documentary you and I fell in love with, and everyone should watch it, where he's interviewing himself. He plays the reporter.
It's the greatest profile of an actor ever made.
Oh, it's just incredible.
I'm gonna link it in the show notes because everyone, if you like Nick Nolte at all, even if you don't like Nick Nolte, it doesn't matter.
No, it's amazing.
This documentary I can't remember the name of it. What was? Do you remember what it was called?
No, God.
Damn
it's the only way he interviews himself. It's easily findable, and it's just so darn good.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so good. He was the best. Eric, do you that you recall? Was there any urban legends or kind of like weird stories from Vancouver that you kind of absorbed as a kid growing up?
Well,
don't go to Old Man Peterson's house. He's like half demon.
No, I wish it was more esoteric and less just sheer humanity terrifying. But I remember everything kind of changed for us, maybe age 13 or 14, where we had a serial killer in Vancouver.
Oh, shit.
And he abducted and killed kids at my Little League field, the Columbia Little League field. And he got caught. His name was Wesley Allen Dodd. But pre-Wesley Allen Dodd, it was kind of like you could go out all day. I grew up with miles and miles of woods behind me, and you could just go out all day. And you come home when the street light's on, or you'd be like, well, that street light's not on. And everyone's like, oh, come on, get in for dinner. And after that happened, everything changed. And it was kind of an end of innocence. And this guy was so terrifying. And he went on, like, for some reason, they allowed him to go on parole, though, and victims' parents to go on there. Yeah, Wesley Allen Dodd. He's a real bad guy.
He's in jail now? Like,
no,
what
I
happened
believe
to
he got executed.
Okay.
And was like, you know, leer at and at the victims' families in court and laugh at them. And he was just a real awful guy. But I mean, it was my Little League field he did this at, and everything just kind of changed. And there just is that weird Northwest thing where, you know, Portland and Seattle are number 1 and number 2 suicide rates in the country always. And there's this hotbed of serial killers. When I was at Gonzaga, they caught that. I think it's the BTK guy. Who'd been living in Spokane, and his family had no clue, and he killed all these people. Robert Earl, it's always 3 names. Earl someone.
That horrifying. Horrifying.
But like that was kind of like the horror that was real
life boogeyman.
Yeah, and that stuff just changes you, and it also just ties into all that Northwest weirdness, and it makes Twin Peaks feel even more real because there's Bob. Seems to be out there. Or now and God. So Jesus. You know, knowing that, God, what if I had ridden my bike there on that day?
I know. It's that's usually when, like, you know, I know, like in Nebraska where I'm from, I'm from Omaha and never lived in Lincoln, but Lincoln, the state capital of Nebraska, was this idyllic, like picturesque little city in Nebraska. But in the 50s, when Charles Starkweather, who was kind of not the first serial killer, but kind of made serial killers famous, I guess, because they based Bonnie and Clyde, True Romance, Natural Born Killers off what him and his partner did. That was when innocence was lost in Lincoln, Nebraska. It changed the fabric of the city forever, where it was not, you didn't leave your doors unlocked anymore, and, you know, you looked both ways at a stranger walking down the street, you know, like, it is sad, but, like, I mean, like, you know, you can't blame people for being terrified, and it just changes things. It's awful.
It changed everything, and it makes you more leery, and it injects this kind of fear in you.
Yeah, it does. It does. Whoa, sorry about the dark road.
Sorry about the dark road, but that was what happened there. But it's also deeply ties in with all the weirdness in the Northwest, all the absolute strangeness that is out there with it. And then I remember, you know, as a kid, I was always so obsessed with Bigfoot and sneaking listening to Art Bell and all this other kind of stuff east of the Rockies. And, you know, that stuff gave me an early love of that still is there. And I still miss Art Bell. And I feel like I slum it, where there's sometimes I'll just drive around listening to George Norrie. And it's not the same. You know, and I'm happy hearing Ian pun it because it reminds you of, when you're a kid, but how do we get you at least co-hosting on that?
I don't know.
They need you, man. They need you.
I think I might have crossed the weird threshold years ago where they're like, he's too weird.
No way, man.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, I mean, like, in terms of just because I know you do have an interest in a lot of these weird topics, and like, you know, I know UFOs are kind of or at least I think it's kind of cooling down, and the excitement over the congressional hearing is kind of past, right?
Yeah.
What happened? Everyone thought there was going to be this big reveal, and shocker, like always, nothing happens, and nothing will happen, I don't think. But why do you think UFOs are having this, you know, kind of moment in the mainstream media and, like, with people? Just like, I feel like more people than ever are like, yeah, UFOs are real, and then they don't even really, like, think about it any further, and they just go on to what they're doing. I guess for guys like me, you know, I've kind of feel like I've known there's something to the phenomenon. I don't think I know what it is, but, like, to me, it's such a major thing. But, like, why do you think this is happening now?
Well, you're always my guidepost on this stuff. And it was absolutely surreal to watch that testimony in Congress.
Right.
For me, I just sort of think we've been subdivided so much.
Yeah.
And if you try telling somebody, well, 20 years ago, nobody cared about your political party. And the people I see going most insane right now about politics had no opinion on Bush versus Gore. And now they're, absolute madness. And so I've always kind of thought cynically, they have divided us and made money on dividing us so much, and everybody has their own news dividing, that eventually you're just going to have to say aliens are real to try to get us to unite again.
Yeah.
Because we are not the United States of America. It's hilarious to me. I personally think we are deeply in the middle of a 40-year Russia plan.
Yeah.
If you look at that dissident KGB agent Yuri, there's some fascinating footage of him in the 80s kind of predicting all of this. And that Russia's the only way they thought they could defeat America was to divide it.
Yeah.
And then social media happened. So
oh, God.
I think that they're, when I look at a government hearing on aliens, I don't think it's one whistleblower. I think it's all completely intentional. And I think they're trying some kind of Hail Mary to be like, whoa, quit fighting in the comments about everything. There's aliens. So, which if that works, that's great. Because I hate seeing friendships break up, or people from Spokane that were amused I was into politics 20 years ago that are now sending the most insane political stuff. Whereas for me, somebody that was obsessed with politics as a youth, phone banking in 1992 before my voice changed, like, don't call our house again, lady. And then you go into politics and it's a little like, if you love hot dogs, maybe don't work at the Hoffy hot dog factory. Because, you work for politics and you see, oh man, it's a lot of wizard behind the curtain moments. So now all of a sudden I have, perhaps less faith. And all the people who were amused and had no opinion on politics now are fire-breathing Trumpers or fire-breathing MSNBC consumers, and they're divided and hate each other and can't do Thanksgiving. And I'm like, just tell them there's aliens, fake it, Project Blue Beam, whatever.
I mean,
whatever it is to get these people together, because they're the same. They just have been following different tracks of Facebook and the news.
It does kind of feel like it is an attempt to corral us into a more one-sided groupthink. Yeah, where it's like, all right, because you're so right. I mean, like we really do live in a pick a side culture now, where like if you are a fence sitter, it's like how a lot of like really religious people, even if like your religion's different than mine, at least you have religion. There's nothing worse than an agnostic or atheist, someone whose mind isn't made up. But I feel like being agnostic and being one of those guys like, look, I'm not sure. I need to gather more information and details about before I make an informed decision. I feel like that type of thinking, even in the paranormal, like UFO world, is not acceptable anymore. To where people are like, either you believe disclosure is going to happen or you don't. I'm like, well, what if I'm just kind of like not sure?
Completely.
That is more annoying to these people, because like there is, even like within the UFO world, for example, it is vitriolic. It is like filthy name calling, people doxing each other. It is it's a very unsavory time in ufology, in my opinion.
Well, and take out ufology and put in politics, put in sports. Like the comments I see on Instagram, I'm trying to watch them, where I'm like over a pitcher, a Dodger pitcher, and people are it's just, we're the beta testers for social media.
Yes.
We all just elected to do this, and we didn't understand that it would actually change the hardwiring of our brain and the software.
Yep.
And so now we're kind of trying to deal with those repercussions, and it's the same thing where they're trying to pull you to two different poles. And ideologically, I was all, definitely on the progressive side of things. But I'm like, well, unfortunately, still have to make change in the middle.
Right.
And sometimes it's very lonely because you've got these two polarized things that are looking to fight each other over every single issue. And it just makes me so sad. Like the idea that people don't have Thanksgivings and they don't have all of this. So
I know.
And it's all a result of profit. Like, they're making so much money off the news, and you can see certain political candidates make people a lot of money, even if they're not the savoriest of souls. And you see it happening again because patriotism has definitely gone to second place in this world right now, where it used to be the good of country. And you look at how America was post World War II, even post 9/11, we had the sympathy in the world with us, and it's kind of fallen by the wayside. And
it has fallen by the wayside.
Money first, and allegiances with money and culture. And if you look at some of these shocking bedfellows we have now for countries that have done some terrifying things, but because the relationship they have with them for money takes precedence than America and patriotism. So it's an interesting deal, Frank.
It's an interesting deal, and it's tough to watch a lot of times. And it's funny how, to me, that the political landscape has infected like this, like, you know, subculture of I love and hold so dear to my heart. It's now become a cesspool for the most part. I mean, there's obviously, like, I feel like I have a great community of friends within the paranormal ufological worlds, but we're a small group, you know, of like lovely people who just like to talk about the phenomenon. Because what's so funny about the modern disclosure movement, first off, UFO activism, I'm like, guys, we have problems we need to address before you become a UFO activist. But it's sad to see that politics has infected that world, because people are just so angry about it. And I'm like, what are we? We're angry about something we'll never really know about. Like, you know.
And what I always, one of the many things I love and adore about you is there's probably nobody I know with less of a concrete opinion on aliens and UFOs than you, the person that knows more than anyone.
Yeah, and the more you know, the less you know.
That's it. And to me, there's, in this era right now, the two things I lean into that surprise people and it makes people happy are, I don't know, and I'm sorry. There's such a lack of either of those these days that for me, there's such glory in not knowing and admitting you don't know, because everybody's an expert on everything. And we watch people pivot from vaccine experts to Gaza experts on Facebook. And it's a wild thing. And I think it's so interesting because I had people reaching out the day of the congressional testimony only to know what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Like, what's Berg
think about this?
Hey, what's Berg think of this? And I'm like, Berg will say he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he knows more than anybody about this, but still says he doesn't know, which there's such glory in that. And I kind of think it'd be amazing if more people, especially if it's happening in your community, which makes me sad to hear, would just say, God, I don't know. But isn't that the joy of life? Is we don't know. We use 10% of our brains. We're monkeys in the back of a Yakult barn. Like, just lean into it and admit that and try to find enlightenment somewhere else, and that there's joy in not knowing.
There is joy. Well, to me, and that's what I gave a lecture in Iowa 2 weeks ago, and at the end of it, and I think half the people liked it and half the people were like pretty annoyed. But I did say, like, the only thing I believe about any of this stuff is that we'll never know the answer to it. And I think the mystery is the key. Mystery is important for human evolution. It's how we make scientific discoveries. I mean, science is a mystery waiting to be unlocked, you know? And so, like, mystery is okay. It's okay not to know. And it's okay to accept that you may never know. It's like, look, we're not going to know what happens after we die, ever. I don't care what anyone says. I don't think that's ever going to happen. You know, with technology or AI, like, some people are like, oh, well, we'll know what happens after. I'm like, okay, whatever. Until I see it, I don't believe it. But, like, I don't know, man. It's talking to you is always one of those things that you always give me hope, because I you are a humanist at your core, and you do always believe in human beings and see the good in people, and that while we're going through this rough period in human history, that there is a chance for us in the future. Tell me you still feel that way, Eric.
Oh, more than ever, buddy. Well, you and I are so good, and you and I will take turns dialing each other in. To this, because I get down, I get freaked out. I consumed way too much news and stuff this week, and I got very sad. But I always, and you will dial me in on this, and I'll try to dial you in if you're having one of those days, focus on the micro. Like, you and I both completely outpunted our coverage in terms of our wives.
Right.
I'm sorry, brother, and you're the biggest part of this. I have the greatest circle of friends. I pinch myself at the friends I have. I love my life. We get to do this like on a what is this, a Monday? Like on a Monday afternoon,
Tuesday, whatever
like,
it is. Yeah.
I just try to focus on that and not the world. And and my therapist has also definitely encouraged me to turn off cable news, which helps a lot. But yeah,
everyone should do it.
I am one of those kind of, the one movie line that grabbed me as a kid was in Ghostbusters. I believe everything happens for a reason, Ray.
Yes.
At the time, I didn't know Venkman's kind of a convict, but I do believe we're here to learn certain things in this life. And perhaps if the Buddhists are right, reincarnation and ascend. And I kind of think we're supposed to be here right now. Perhaps we even chose it. This is my weird, esoteric, spiritual thing.
Yeah, no, I love it.
So you just try to make the best of it and just have life lessons that you learn. And like, I look at both of us, and I do, I live by the William Blake quote, "The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom."
Yes.
And there's something in that resonates in me. Like, I went to Pilates this morning, and, I haven't had a drink since 2016. And like, there's something really joyous about being on a path and getting better. And even now I'm in a crazy acting class with kids literally half my age that moved to Los Angeles, that were born after I moved to LA, and that's humbling.
Yeah.
But it's like, as long as you're here, just keep expanding, keep getting better. Turn off that news, turn up the music. And you and I also definitely are live music guys. So I'm at an embarrassment of riches. I am seeing Brian Jonestown Massacre this week. I'm seeing
yes, your first time.
I'm seeing Brandy Carlisle. I'm seeing a play. So, I just really try to lean into that and encourage other people to lean into that. And I did. My phone pulled at me yesterday. And my wife had to gently be like, "You want maybe put that down?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't understand what they're doing. And this was a music festival, and it could."
I know.
Nope.
I know.
Put it away. Turn up the music.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, my mantra I say to people, and look, just because I know it's worked whenever I've been through a rough period, is that art saves. Art is here to save us. Art is here to save all of us. And so lean into art, and it's okay to escape. I don't mean disassociate, but it is okay to escape into a wonderful reality tunnel filled with wonderful art. Eric, you are an absolute gem. I love you so much, buddy. Like, you are the greatest. Guys, I will brag again. Like, I get to be friends with Eric Edelstein, which I'm cocky about. I like to brag about that. But this guy is one of my favorite people in the world. Like, when I go to LA now for work or just to go out and see people, I stay at their house. I married him and his wonderful wife.
I mean,
like,
I've
we're
only
brothers,
married
dude.
two people, my wife and you. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Steve Burke married me." I'm like, they give a look like, "Oh, fantastic." I'm like, "No, well, he officiated my wedding." But like, hey, at the Burbank Moose Lodge, character actor budget, $900.
What a night! It was so great.
Yeah, but you're
probably the best wedding I've ever been to.
Stephen. That art is the thing that will raise us up. And if anybody's listening to this and sees the magic of 13 feet, the joy that Steve and I bring to a room, we can bring to your project. Yes. So bring us in together.
We have a show Bible called Big and Tall that we would love to pitch to you. Are you listening to FX? All those companies out there.
Steve. The world's magic like that. And I'll also say this, I probably shouldn't say it. We do a group rate. If you want to give the day rate you're going to give to another actor, Steve and I will come in and play brothers and split that group rate down the middle. You just have to get us a meal. This is not a bit. We will work for half if we can split it.
We will. We're at the same agency right now. And both our agents, if they heard this, be like, "Shut up! What are you guys doing?"
Don't do that. But no.
Let us handle that part. You guys are the worst at negotiating.
The worst. Hey, it's ironclad. I just said it on Hello Strange. It's legally binding. We will split a day rate. Bring us in as brothers. There's magic in it.
Oh man, there's been a couple times where I've literally known a director for a small project, and they're like, "Well, the money's not that great." I'm like, "Dude, you don't even have to pay me." And my agent will be like, "Did you tell them they didn't have to pay you?" I was like, "Well, I was just saying that." I'm like, "Don't do that." I'm like, "Sorry, you're right. I guess I need to eat too."
Oh, damn it.
I love you so much, buddy.
This was such a joy. I love Hello Strangeness so much. You know how bad I want to be on.
You love it so much. You love it so much that you've been calling it the wrong name the entire time, which I'm not going to. It's High Strangeness. God, Eric, you totally embarrassed me.
I thought the high was just implicit in all of it.
No, you're right. It should be hello. That might be better.
No. It's definitely a high experience.
I'll talk that over with the board, the High Strangeness board of directors. Eric, I know we're still in the midst of an actor's strike, but is there any I would love you to throw out your social medias and anything else you want to drive people to. I'll put all the pertinent links for Eric in the show notes. But is there anything you want to leave us with in terms of your work?
I just want to promote High Strangeness. I'm not allowed to promote anything. I'm not in anything anyway. Watch High
none of
Strangeness.
us can. Yeah.
Where'd I get hello? Well, is it Hello Stranger? What's that
it's
from?
Like old timey 1930s movie.
Yeah, that was a good one.
With Bogart.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm hoping the strike's over soon, buddy. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm not holding my breath.
We're ready to get back to work, man. Hire us, please. We need the work.
Yeah.
But Eric, give out your social media.
Eric J. Edelstein at Instagram, Yahoo.
Yeah. He's a fun follow, man. You get to see the passion he has for life and music and art, and it's just all positive vibes coming from the Eric Edelstein Instagram.
I love it. Situation. And I'm about to start a podcast called Underrated, which I'm
not
even
man,
you just have to be one of my first guests. Which everybody coming in talking about what is most underrated to them: a movie, a book, a lot of music. So start thinking about what you want to talk about, Steve. Like I need what you think is most underrated, because you have gotten me to so much cool shit in my lifetime and exposed me to so much music outside my realm.
Thanks.
Speaking of which, I just saw a fight break out last week in a vegan cafe.
Hell yes.
There was a couple in town visiting from Portland, staying in an Airbnb, and they put on 4 Morrissey songs in a row. Shit went down. I will let you know next time I'm on High Strangeness. But you and I need to talk about it soon, because it was hysterical. It was so funny, buddy.
I live for vegan fights. I do.
Dude,
I love them.
Surprisingly, they get meaty.
Yeah, they're wiry.
Oh, yeah.
Long stamina. Oh, man. Well, hey, thank you, everyone, for listening to High Strangeness After Dark. My wonderful guest has been Eric J. Edelstein, and I will put all the pertinent links at the bottom. He is the absolute greatest. Please go look at his IMDb page and just start at the beginning and go through all of it, because he is one of the most gifted, talented, and also giving actors out in the world today. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your dinners tonight. Bye-bye.
Bye.